What is up, guys? My name is Gerdes. Today we're going to be talking about my journey to 100,000 followers. Have you ever thought to yourself, what would it be like if I had a ton of followers? Like, I don't know, like 100,000 of them. I used to ask myself that question all the time and wonder, is it even possible to get there? Well, recently I finally did it. I broke 100,000 followers, and today I want to talk about what that journey looks like, how I got here, what were the pain points of getting there, and how could someone like you do it as well? So we're going to dive right in. So when I first got into Instagram, it was about 5 years ago. Instagram was being used for sharing square photos. There was no stories, there was no really social aspect of it. It was very minor, very basic. People used it mainly for adding filters, okay? And I used to add that lo-fi filter. I don't know what you used to use, but that was my filter of choice way back in the day. And I remember one day seeing a couple of my friends go out on these trips. They had won these trips from PacSun to go see these really cool places. They went to New Orleans and Oregon and got to take a bunch of photos, and they were really cool. And so I started talking with them, and together we started to put together this company. I see you've made it to this trip, and you're here to accompany us. What we have here is a lovely group of hooligans known as Thank Universe. And I was traveling around with them quite a lot, and they were taking all these photos. They were really good photographers, and they were starting to build their following. They had like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 followers. And at the time, that was a lot. 5 years ago, 2014, that was quite a lot. So I began to kind of take an interest in what they were doing. So I started borrowing my stepdad's T3i, and I remember going out with them. They would teach me everything they knew about what to do and how to take a good photo and what it means to take a good photo. And we were kind of just doing it for fun. We would go out and just shoot photos of our friends, and it was really nothing until somebody asked me. They go, hey, how much do you charge for a shoot? And that's when I realized, hey, maybe I'm onto something. So very soon after getting started, my friends invited me to something called Flask Mob. And Flask Mob was one of the first big Instagram meetups that was being hosted. There was one in LA that was so big, there was like 2,000 people. That SWAT team had to shut it down. It was huge. There was blowing fire. There's models that were just running reckless everywhere, just taking off their clothes. I mean, not something I would recommend, but it's really what it was like. So back in the day, Flask Mob was a huge event. I remember this DJ, big wave couch surfer, would throw all of his DJ equipment into a shopping cart and walk around and play music, and we'd all just follow the music, and it was so much fun just roaming around the streets of San Francisco and Los Angeles, taking photos with these groups of 1,000+ people. It was insane. Being a part of that community and going to those events and thinking, you know what, this is a lot of fun, I want to keep going. Maybe I can actually grow. So I set a goal, and my goal was in 1 month I wanted to have 1,000 followers. So I started brainstorming all these different things of what I can do and what it would look like and what I need, and I came up with a good game plan. And soon thereafter I took a photo of my friend Janelle that ended up going super viral. It was featured on this really amazing page back in the day called Waiting on the World, which is, if you know that name, you know how legendary that is. And then also it was featured on Instagood, which was insane. And that helped me get there a lot. But on top of that, I remember in 1 month exactly, it was about 30 minutes to midnight, and I was 16 followers away from hitting my goal. And I was so frustrated. I was like, wow, like I got so close. I'd been hustling all month and I came this close. I was proud, but I was kind of, like, ah, geez. But 30 minutes to midnight, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw one of my friends, Franco, had posted a photo, and the caption read, "I hate it when people hit you up just when they need something." And I remember commenting on it. I said, Dan, you do this all the time, just as a joke, as a friendly joke. And he calls me and he goes, he says, dude, if you ever needed anything, I'd totally help you out. I'd totally do a favor for you, whatever you need. And he had about 30,000 followers at the time. And I asked him, I go, Dan, I had this goal of hitting 1,000 followers in a month. Could you shout me out? And this is when there was no story. So it was a big deal. He had to put me on his feed. So he did it. He did it in 2 minutes to midnight. I broke my goal of 1,000 followers. It was insane. I was so stoked. And that's really what kicked forth the fire that got this all going. And from there, I was hustling and taking photos with as many people as I could, always kind of reaching for the next rung of the ladder, as I used to think about it. People who were just a little bit bigger than me. If I had 5,000, I was reaching out to people with 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10,000. When I was at 10,000, it was like 15,000 and 20,000. I was reaching out to people that were in my space, but just a little bit further along, getting their advice, asking them questions, you know, doing everything I could, going home and editing as late as oh, spider. Oh, spider, get the f out of here. Oh, shit. I should have killed him when I had the chance. Oh, shit. This little devil. Y'all just witnessed nearly the end of ya boy. Okay, where were we? So I was reaching out to people, and then I found this girl, Melissa, who had 100,000 followers, and she was in the Bay Area, but didn't look like she was really working with photographers. So I thought about it for a really long time. I sat there with my computer open, trying to figure out what kind of email should I send her. And I thought, okay, if I just say, you know, I'm a photographer, I want to work with you, she probably gets lots of that already. So let me try a different approach. So I concocted this email structure, which if you have my Instagram growth course, you know that structure. So I concocted this structure and how to structure the email that would maybe be a little bit more convincing. So I shoot her out an email, and then the next day she gets back to me and she goes, yeah, I'd love to work with you. Let's make it happen. And I was so stoked. I'd never shot with anybody that big before. I remember laying on the floor of my room at 3 in the morning the night before, trying to figure out how could I hit all of my best spots so that we could shoot the best content all in a day. And it was impossible. It wouldn't ever happen. So we ended up going out and shooting that day, but the photos were okay, but she liked them, which was good, and we ended up working a lot together since then. So I'm very grateful that you know, went down positively, actually. So after that, I started to kind of gain a lot of confidence in what I was able to do, and I started hitting up people I looked up to, and one of those people was Noel Alva. And I remember talking to him and saying, hey, like, I really want to go down to LA. You know, could we go out and shoot when I come and visit? And he goes, yeah. And I go, I'm just kind of looking for a place to stay right now, and I'll let you know as I figure out all the details. And he goes, dude, you can crash with me, it's totally cool. And the first time I met him was me rolling up to his house to stay with him, and he was one of my favorite photographers at the time. I was so excited to work with them and connect with them and to just be around this guy. We ended up hitting it off pretty good. We have a lot of very similar music tastes. And so Noel, you know what I'm talking about. Falling asleep to Rice Boy Sleeps, that's the jam.
Fucking mint.
If you are unfamiliar with John and Alex, then get familiar. It's the best sleeping music you'll ever hear. But after that happened, I was super excited, and I started working with as many people as I possibly could. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, I need to reach out to somebody big. I need to make something big happen. So after that, I remember reaching out to this girl, Carrington, using this email structure that I set up from earlier. And surely enough, I think it was one of her agents that got back to me and said, yeah, let's make a shoot happen. And she drove all the way out from LA to Laguna Beach to work with me. And we shot, and those photos are still some of my favorite photos I've taken to this day. From there, it just kind of took off. A lot of people started hitting me up. A lot of people with big followings left and right just wanted to work and wanted to make things happen. I remember I was out shooting basically every single day, trying to just keep up with the hustle. As this started to happen, I started to work with one of my old friends when I first got into photography, Jacory. He started a company called H Influencer Collective, and they started doing these trips that were basically, they were very similar to the trip that he went on for PacSun, because he said that those trips were really big for him. So he wanted to be able to do that for other people. And so eventually, they actually hired me to start putting together these influencer trips, going out to these different places. Brands would essentially pay to have their content go out with these influencers to these cool places, cool locations, and to shoot content for the brands and shout out the brands. So the brands would get free content, or not free, but they would get content and they would get exposure along with it. And so they started paying me to do that, and that's what actually enabled me to finally leave my job, 9-to-5 job at a local sandwich shop. And after that, I just started really traveling and doing that full time as much as I could, and going out with these different influencers and really making that happen. And that's what kind of led to get me out of my 9-to-5 job. And with all that starting to go down, it was around the same time as I got to meet one of my other favorite photographers, which was Scott Barrero. Now, along the time that I met Scott, the algorithm started to kick in. So that was around this point when the algorithm first started, okay? My photos went from getting like 10,000 likes per photo. I had like 30,000 followers at the time. 10,000 likes per photo, all the way down to like 2,000. So it really took a massive hit on my engagement. And it caused me to kind of rethink some things. And traveling around to Yosemite and Mount Shasta and a few other places with Scott, Scott was, he won this game show called Top Photographer. He came in first place. And I was learning a lot from him. You know, the way he shot, the way he handled the shoots, the way he would think about different things. You know, I started to absorb a lot of that kind of information. It was changing the way I was shooting. And that was actually a really big turning point in changing how I was deciding to take my photos. And as a little secret little tidbit that a lot of people don't know, is my profile photo on Instagram is not me. It's Scott. It's Scott Barrero in Mount Shasta, one of my favorite places on the planet. So that was from one of those shoots, and that was a huge turning point. It was when I had just finally quit my job. I was changing the way I was shooting. I'd finally met somebody who I was looking up to a lot. Scott was a huge person that I was stoked about his work for a long time. And so he was a huge point. So I decided to make that my profile photo, and it stuck. A lot of people really liked it, so I kept it. You know, things got better. I remember shooting my first photo that broke 10,000 likes with Sam Blackie after brainstorming. Literally that day I sat out in Laguna Beach and I said, what kind of photo would break 10,000 likes? I was sitting there brainstorming, and surely enough, that day I shoot that photo. And then also I remember going on one of my favorite shoots ever. I remember getting called by Joelle Friend. She goes, hey, I'm gonna be down in Los Angeles. We're gonna get this helicopter to take us over LA. I think you'd be the perfect photographer for it. You know, are you down to meet us down there? And her and her friend Bella Bucciati were flying from Canada, and I would just have to drive from San Francisco. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And that was one of my favorite shoots I ever went on, because I went up on the helicopter with them, and the second we landed, Bella goes, hey, you guys can't say no to this, but I'm gonna treat you guys to Disneyland. Bella, huge shout out to you. That was awesome of you. That was one of the best days ever, going up in the helicopter and then going to Disneyland afterwards. You're an amazing soul. So I was doing that for a long time, just kind of traveling back and forth from LA to San Francisco, until I remember I landed a bunch of big shoots all in a row, and I had to go down to Southern California for about a week. I was shooting Lauren Gray, which is massive. I remember shooting with Twan, and I also was on a yacht with Pure Vita bracelets. And I remember going down there, and it was just this huge week, but I was also kind of stressed out because there's these fires that were going down in Northern California at the time that was kind of hitting close to home. But that was a huge week, a huge turning point that really turned up everything. That really took me to the next level follower-wise, was shooting with a lot of those really big people. And I remember, and I was able to secure those clients using the email template, which I talked about earlier. I remember going down south one weekend, and Tana drove out, actually Ubered out at 5 in the morning to Laguna Beach just to shoot with me. And that was pretty awesome. Her and a group of good homies there. They were such wonderful souls, really positive human beings. They're very caring, asked me a lot about myself, you know, what my likes were, my dislikes, and really got to know me, and that was really, really sweet experience to have happen. But around that time is when I took up an opportunity in Northern California that I thought was gonna be really great. It all sounded really great until it kind of really went south. It ended up taking up about 3 to 6 months of my time. I had to kind of take a step back for a long time from photography because it was so time sensitive, and the fact that it went really far south took a very big hit on my mental health. It was kind of hard to bounce back from that, knowing, because it was such a big project, and I really can't go into too many details about it, but it ended up screwing up some relationships with close family friends unintentionally. You know, it was just how the cards ended up being played. And that was really hard, because it's hard to build confidence back up in yourself when you do something so big and you mess up so bad. And you know, I was trying stuff, you know, here and there to kind of get myself out of that funk, but nothing really worked until this one girl came around. I remember I was going out to shoot with my friend Victoria and Micah. Micah asked if he could bring his friend Daisy. And I remember we were going out, we're taking photos, and we were driving back, and we're just kind of talking about numbers and seeing numbers everywhere. And she used to tell me, oh yeah, I see this number 36 everywhere. And we're talking about that. And then we went to In-N-Out and she got number 36. I thought, oh, that was kind of interesting. Some universal synchronicities there. We ended up going out on another shoot after that. We all went out to Yosemite, and she expressed interest. She goes, I really want to grow. You know, I really think that I can do it. I said, all right, well, you know, I spent many years at this point working, doing influencer trips for these companies, which actually led to get me into Forbes. And I did, you know, I've worked with these other huge, massive influencers. Like, I know how they think. I ask them a lot of questions. I'm very inquisitive. Let's make it happen. I ended up working with her and kind of, she'd ask so many questions about how to grow, and she really did it on her own. You know, I just provided a lot of, you know, good advice to help her get there. And she ended up exploding. She blew up to over 1 million followers in a year. It's incredibly impressive. And from there, I thought, you know what? Even though this bad thing happened, it doesn't discredit everything I've learned up to this point. And so I started jumping on calls and doing workshops left and right. And I remember spending all day on the phone with people, just trying to help them grow and get to where they want to be, until I finally released a course. And doing that course and those workshops and helping Daisy is really what took everything over the edge. It's really what got me from 90,000 to 100,000. And now I am still taking photos and helping people as much as I can. And I'm starting to make these kinds of videos because I want to help, you know, make the world a really awesome place, and help people, you know, like you, become who you want to become. I never wanted anyone to be able to go through kind of the different unfortunate scams that I kind of had to go through. So, you know, a creative should be able to create and build an audience for what they love. And I kind of want to help facilitate that. So that was my journey from 0 to 100 on how I got to 100,000 followers. And you know, I hope you've liked my story, and if you have, feel free to hit the subscribe button if you like, if you want to continue on this journey. If you want to get that course I was talking about with the email structure, there'll be a link down below, okay? You can go to my website too, there's other courses on there. But anyways, guys, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to your success. Thank you.